Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today, we're inviting you to think about something that often gets skipped over in transformation stories. Like what really happens after a huge personal change. Specifically, let's talk about profound weight loss. You hear the stories of struggle, then triumph, right? But that often misses the deeper, much more complex stuff that happens next. So our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack the psychological shifts, the identity changes that can happen when, your body changes faster than your brain, faster than your self-image can keep up. We're diving into the work of Dan Hollis, a really unique voice on this, and some personal stories that kind of light up his, let's say, unconventional approach.
Yeah, and this deep dive, it really pushes back against the usual ideas of what success even means with weight loss. The sources we looked at suggest the real crisis. It often isn't losing the weight itself, it's in those quiet moments afterwards.
Okay, let's make this real with a story. Our sources talk about Adrienne. She's 53, and she's months into losing weight successfully using semaglutide. That's one of those newer medications affecting appetite, just for context. So one morning, she's just, brushing her teeth, looks in the mirror, and she just doesn't recognize herself. Like her face is thinner, lines are sharper. Her eyes seemed, she said, older and newer all at once. It felt like she'd been, her words, peeled back and rearranged without being asked.
Wow, that's vivid.
Isn't it? And the really striking part, she knew it was her reflection objectively, but the feeling, she felt like she didn't belong to that woman looking back.
That disconnect.
Exactly. And Dan Hollis, he actually has a name for this. He calls it identity lag. His definition is just so spot on. Your body can change faster than your story, and when that happens, the soul gets confused.
That phrase, the soul gets confused, really lands. How does that confusion show up beyond just the mirror moment? What else happens psychologically?
Well, the sources show it's often subtle but deep. People think, okay, losing weight, that's the hard part.
Right, the main battle.
But then, after, when maybe the constant hunger isn't there anymore, the old eating rituals start to dissolve.
And the armor drops, that's a phrase used, like the protective habits or persona built around the weight.
Yeah, that armor. And suddenly you're left feeling, well, unrecognizable, even to yourself.
And Adrienne, she wasn't actually sad about the lost pounds. She was sort of mourning the version of herself who carried them. The one who, knew how to work a room with a joke or which specific sweater hid what. She was good at being that person.
She was good at it. And now the body's different, but the mental map hasn't updated yet.
Exactly. No map for the mind.
And that feeling, that disconnect, maybe it feels familiar to you listening. If your reflection has ever felt more like a stranger than, like home, or if the shape felt right, but maybe the soul felt missing, you are definitely not alone in that. Which brings us to this really common trap, how we deal with setbacks. Failure.
Oh, yeah. The F word in weight loss.
Yeah. Totally. We're usually taught to see it as, like, you're weak, or you lack discipline, or maybe you're just fundamentally broken somehow.
Carries so much shame.
So much. But Dan Hollis, he offers this completely different way to look at it, a reframe. He says failure isn't the end, it's a message, a moment of feedback.
Feedback, not failure.
Right. He talks about it almost like a data point, something you just observe, learn from it, build on it, instead of beating yourself up.
It makes you wonder, why do we see setbacks so negatively? Dan's view is that a relapse isn't some moral failing. It's not betraying your progress. It's often just the brain asking for the old familiar rhythm, the old comfort, the old pattern.
Familiar, yeah.
And if you just ignore that, try to power through without understanding, that's when things can fracture. He puts it really bluntly. Most people aren't failing semaglutide. They're failing to prepare for what comes after it.
Wow. Okay, so the focus shifts completely. It's not about you failing the tool. It's about not being prepared for the mental landscape after the physical change.
Precisely. It shifts it from personal defects to, well, lack of preparation. Or lack of the right kind of support.
Which makes setbacks, not failures, but maybe even sacred, as he calls them, if you can approach them with curiosity instead of judgment. Curiosity. There's another great quote from him. The shame isn't in failing. The shame is in pretending you were supposed to be perfect.
Oof.
Right. It's about building grace by reaching for a better tool, a better understanding, instead of just reaching for blame.
So what does that curiosity actually look like when you stumble and the stakes feel really high?
Well, the sources suggest it's about pausing, observing without that immediate self-attack.
Yeah.
Instead of, I failed, it's more like, okay, what was happening there? What was the message? What was my brain actually looking for in that moment?
Like being a detective for your own pattern.
Exactly. Asking, what story am I telling myself about this setback? And is that story actually helping me move forward? It's digging into the why, not just the what.
That requires a different kind of effort than just willpower, doesn't it?
Totally different. Which leads to another key point. For so many people, food isn't just fuel, it's comfort, it's noise, it's like a constant co-pilot.
Mm-hmm. Fills the space.
Yeah, and semaglutide, according to these sources, can really quiet that voice. It
Right.
creates this silence.
A silence that can be unsettling for some.
Very. And Dan Hollis has this powerful insight here. He says, the real work begins when the cravings stop. That's when the truth shows up.
Okay. The truth. What kind of truth are we talking about? Is it about facing old emotions or?
Yeah, I think it's often about realizing how much food was maybe masking other things, deeper emotional needs, boredom, anxiety. Maybe it was even serving as a boundary in a weird way.
Right. When that external noise quiets down,
Yeah.
you're left with yourself, your inner landscape.
Yeah.
And maybe you haven't really sat with that quietly before.
Exactly. And Hollis points out he doesn't sell willpower because he believes people don't usually fail because the medication stops working. They fail because no one helped them actually rewrite the rituals, the habits, the automatic behaviors that were so tied up in their identity.
That makes sense. It's not just about not doing something, but figuring out what to do instead.
Right. And that connects to how Hollis reframes semaglutide itself. He doesn't see it as a magic bullet, a final solution.
More like a tool.
Yes, or even better, like a pause, a breather, a reset button. It creates this incredibly valuable space, a window of opportunity to consciously design a new system for yourself.
I like that. A space to design.
He says, you didn't lose control, you lost connection.
Connection to what?
To your hunger cues, to your purpose, to yourself. That's what we help you rebuild. Rebuilding connection.
That really shifts the focus from just restriction to something much more constructive. Rebuilding. And it highlights a crucial point. Just because results are fast doesn't mean they'll last, right? The scale doesn't measure self-trust or that rebuild connection.
Not at all. And Dan is super clear on this. Semaglutide isn't cheating, it's adaptation.
Adaptation. Okay.
Yeah. He says, the real cheat is pretending willpower was enough all along. Which, for many people, it just wasn't.
It's hard.
And his point is, every pound lost isn't just weight gone. It means a habit, a pattern, needs to be actively replaced, not just removed.
Because the space will get filled to something.
Exactly. Biology might give you that head start with the medication, but it's your identity, your new sense of self that keeps you moving forward.
So it's not about white-knuckling it.
No. He says, you don't hold on to weight loss with discipline. You hold on to it with alignment.
Alignment. Okay, let's unpack that. How is alignment different from just good old-fashioned discipline?
Well, discipline often feels like force, like you're constantly fighting yourself, right?
Yeah, like pushing a boulder uphill.
Exactly. Alignment, in Hollis's view, is more about internal harmony. It's when your actions, your choices, even your internal self-talk all start to line up naturally with the person you're becoming.
So it's less about forcing and more about flow. Building a life that just supports the new you, rather than feeling like a constant battle against the old urges.
Precisely. It's building systems that make the desired behavior easier, more natural.
Okay, so let's bring this back to Adrienne. How did this play out for her, working with Dan?
Well, interestingly, they didn't focus obsessively on the scale. They worked on language.
Language? How so?
Literally rewriting the names of things. So shame wasn't just shame anymore. It became memory, something that happened, but not who she is.
Okay, I see. Reframing the internal narrative.
Yeah. Control wasn't the goal. Curiosity was. Discipline wasn't the method. Alignment was.
So instead of trying to control urges, she got curious about them. Instead of forcing discipline, she focused on aligning her life with who she wanted to be now.
Exactly. And slowly, Adrienne started to fill in what she called her new frame, her new body, her new life space.
Fill it with what, though? If not the old patterns.
With permission. That was the key word for her. Permission to not have it all figured out. Permission to feel awkward in this in-between stage.
Permission to be messy during the transition.
Yes. And permission to build a new story without feeling like she had to completely trash the old one. It was still part of her journey.
That sounds gentle
Mm.
and sustainable.
It does. And the change they noted wasn't some dramatic makeover moment. It was subtle. Remember the mirror? It didn't magically change. but the way she greeted it did.
How?
She stopped flinching away from her reflection. She wasn't necessarily smiling yet either, but she just stood there longer.
They're longer.
Yeah, which, as Dan Hollis would say, is something. It's that quiet moment of just being present, maybe moving towards acceptance.
That speaks volumes. It really illustrates this point that healing isn't always flashy or loud. It's quiet, it's intentional. It's, like he says, the slow layering of new choices, new thoughts, and new systems.
All built during that sacred window that semaglutide creates. It's about using that pause effectively.
Ultimately, it seems Dan's teaching isn't about becoming some idealized, thin person. It's about using the space created by the medication, by the change, to finally become more fully yourself.
Yes. Not someone else, yourself. So if we boil down the core insight from this deep dive, true transformation, particularly with weight loss, goes so far beyond just the physical. It really digs deep into identity, into how we see ourselves, and it forces this sometimes challenging but ultimately really liberating redefinition of self.
Absolutely. And the real journey, the real work, it starts in that quiet window after the initial changes, when the old noise fades. That's the opportunity to rebuild connection, to find a sense of belonging, but this time belonging to yourself.
So a final thought for you listening. If you've ever looked in the mirror and felt like you were looking at a stranger, maybe know that you're not behind, you're not doing it wrong. You might just be in that part of the story where you're learning how to belong to yourself again. And maybe something more honest, more aligned is arriving. Let it in. And importantly, let it take its time.
Let it take its time.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into this fascinating and I think really important aspect of personal transformation and identity.